Hello, everybody. So my name is Nina Khamsky, and I'm very happy to be here. And I'll be a visiting researchers for 3 months at the Digital Lab. So this is the start of this nice visiting moment. So my topic is about the way refugees are impacted by new technologies. And I will start with a snapshot. So now we are in 2022, but in 2015, there was a flow of people on the move coming to claim asylum in Europe. And something that surprised many people was that they were using smartphones. So for the common public, they were like asking, why do these people who have nothing have smartphones? So this seemed for them shocking or even surprising. Yet this shows the way many issues around migration and technologies are not really understood. First, refugees are just people like you and me. Anyone can suddenly have to flee war. And the smartphone is today for everybody the principal item that we bring with us. And secondly, people were like, the common view was they were very shocked that refugees would like take selfies once they reached a destination. For example, when they would cross the Mediterranean and be like, oh, these are just people who don't really are looking to be safe. Yet, I will now answer these paradoxes from an anthropological point of view, because so I'm doing a PhD in anthropology in my 4th year, and I study these questions. And what can anthropology tell us? So it's very qualitative approach, and it's very complementary with all the other approaches we have seen in this conference. Is that first we have to understand the political situation, why people even use these smartphones, and why are these smartphones so important to them? It's because the borders are becoming more closed, and for somebody to reach asylum, they need to even reach the territory. So today, smartphones are the most essential item that people on the move have, to use GPS locations, to communicate with their relatives, and to get information on where to go and how. And all this information circulates a lot on actually Telegram groups that we have seen that are so useful for many people. And the cultural aspect of, for example, sending selfies is important there. It's not that people are having a great time. It's really to send the message to their families that they are safe. And also it shows how much pressure people on the move have, because they have to become successful migrants. A person who arrives here has to spend around more than 1,000 euros minimum, really, with, let's say, the Afghan population I'm doing my research among. From Afghanistan to here, it costs way more than just going on a flight. And a whole community behind the person who arrives here has invested. Anyway, so this is to explain the whole context of this very mundane digital practice that is sending a selfie. Because the person is really much under pressure and has to perform to be a successful migrant. So this context, I give it to show us the paradox in the way migration is often framed as people who have to be stopped at the borders, and a lot of funding, for example, into Frontex, so the agency, the EU agency who is supposed to control and protect EU borders, invests a lot in new technologies, high technologies, drones, heat sensors. AI is also used now for many technologies to detect facial recognition and to see if some populations are high risks. And the paradox is that at the end, it's a very low-tech device that helps people the most to cross these borders, because they have to. It's a matter of survival. And in my research, so I go on the so-called Balkan route, which today is most accurately called Balkan Circuit, because the borders of the EU are so closed and they don't even listen to people's claim for asylum. They are just deemed to be irregular migrants, even though later on when they reach the destination, actually they get asylum. So this shows that the politics of the borders are just dysfunctional. And these high technologies, this big industry is created along the lines of stopping these people who are deemed to be irregular migrants. What I see at the borders is that people experience these technologies from below, and I think there's a huge, there's a lot of benefit in listening to these people who are impacted by these technologies. So this is my little claim for multidisciplinarity. When we look at high technologies, at new technologies and forced migration, it's really to look at the experience of the people who are on the move. Because what happens at the borders is that not only the drones try to to detect them. But the border guards from all the EU countries actually that surround Serbia, Romania, Hungary, and Croatia, there is a lot of opacity on what happens at the border, and people on the move get their phones broken, which actually has a huge impact on the rest of their journey, because if somebody is pushed back, so that means if the person the person wants to claim asylum but is pushed away, if they don't have their phone anymore, they just are pushed, and they don't have the GPS anymore to navigate. They don't have contact with their families anymore, and this has very long-term consequences. So for my PhD, I look at different points on the migration journey, and I can see the impact of a phone that is broken after years. It's not just a problem in the Balkans, it's really a problem of EU policies that have implications all along the route. So, for example, there's the issue of people who are separated when they try to cross a border, and the phone is destroyed on the run, and then the person lose contact with their families, and but the person has to continue to reach the destination. So, so the person actually doesn't know where the family is, and it takes years actually to reconnect. So all this to say that that when we think about technologies, they can harm, they can also help, but to really try to work together to make technologies that help people and that respect fundamental rights, we really need to have this multidisciplinary approach to see how we can support human rights, and really look beyond technologies, the political context in which these technologies are implemented, and the funding that goes into high tech sometimes really bypasses all these concerns about human rights. Yes, so I have some time more, or yeah, yeah, 2 minutes. Okay, great. So something more to say about the use of technologies by Frontex. So the AI technologies that are used, they can really be, we can really understand the impact from just low tech, as I was saying, that once people are detected, their phones are broken. And this is also just to avoid the transparency of what happens at the border. So the people who can film what's happening, this become an archive that can be used for advocacy, and this is really the reason why these phones are broken. So really there's a lot to see about this really low-tech device, the smartphone, and how it's connected to broader issues. The question of social media is also important, because the fact that the phone, the materiality of the phone along the way can be very vulnerable to be broken, so people would resort to social media to leave their data online. And there is a lot of knowledge that goes around what data to put online and where. And at the same time, this data online can be so safeguarded. As I said before, for example, many people would put their data on their Google account, like the contact list, so that they know that if they lose their phone or their phone is broken, they can access the numbers of their families. Yet this data can also be used against them. So we know that there's many cases of during the asylum process when the person has to give an interview to explain why and how they got to their destination country. The phone can also be used to see if the person is actually lying or not. And here it's interesting to look at technology, how it is supposed to be neutral and to be an evidence, but the thing is that it will be used against the person's narrative. But I mean, I don't know if you remember where you were 2 weeks ago or where you were 1 month ago, but the problem is that human memory is anyways a bit, you cannot rely on it so much. And technologies, like so the data we leave on our phones, they can more accurately show, of course, what we did. But it doesn't mean that we want to lie if we don't say what we did. Anyway, so it's to show how technology can be used as an evidence to show that somebody is lying, but it's more like we have to just to understand that it's not I mean, it's not a very, it's not an evidence at the end. Yeah. Thank you.